Over the last couple of months I've slowly been piecing together a cockpit which I can use in VR. Whilst perfectly usable in 2D, I want something that's awesome in virtual reality. I've been using the Authentikit modular flight control system, and I've just about completed my initial build. So let's see how I got on. Welcome to the SimHanger, my name's Mark and let's get started. This video is an update and a continuation of some previous videos I've done on the Authentikit equipment. I'll leave links to these videos in the notes below, and there you can get more details and options in terms of services and product. But for those that want it, here's a quick summary. Authentikit offers as a freeware download all plans, files and a materials list for a variety of different peripherals, be that a flight stick, a throttle quadrant or a trim wheel. The range of aircraft that they cover continues to expand, but they have a strong focus on the World War II warbirds. The designs are for general peripherals, so it's not just Microsoft Flight Simulator. They can be used in DCS, X-Plane and a range of other sims. These plans provide details for 3D printed components for self-assembly. They're also working with partners that can provide you with the kits or give you the location of a competent 3D printer near you. More details on the Authentikit website. How do you have a workable cockpit in VR when you can't see any physical peripherals in the headset? Well, you can if that component's position exactly matches that in your simulated cockpit. You know exactly where it is and can reach out and activate the peripheral. Let's quickly put my build together. We start off with a universal hub, which is just one USB connector. I've got 4 ports on my hub, but it can accommodate up to 10. All our peripherals connect to the central hub via network connectors. Authentikit called this the rig. It is in fact a monitor mount for your desktop turned upside down. I've added an extra piece to the monitor arm as this is going to hold my flight stick. And it simply screws down onto your desk. The universal hub has a handy flap so it holds that in place too. Cost of this mount plus the mod is between £20 and £40. The rig is now securely fastened to my desk. The rig I'm building is to match the FlyingIron Spitfire Mark 9. All the controls are on the left hand side. So using a 3D printed clamp, I'm attaching a horizontal bar. And to that I've already attached a number of stays to hold the peripherals. Let's start off with the throttle quadrant for the Spitfire Mark 9. That's the throttle quadrant there. It is a very close replica to the one found in the real aircraft. It has prop, throttle and mixture levers. And one of my favorite features is that slot on the back. It simply slides on. No nuts, no bolts, nothing else. It's securely in place. All that remains is for me to attach it to the universal hub. Now time to slot on the rudder trim. Again, it uses the same slide-on mechanism, and based on the cockpit that goes slightly lower and at the back. There we are. And now for the elevator trim, which I've actually just assembled. And the design is such that it can only be mounted one way, and as you can see it's quick easy and quick off. That's both the trims mounted, and now just to connect the cables to the central hub using standard network cables. That's done, we're nearly complete. All that's left now is for us to fit the flight stick, and as you can see an exact replica of the Spitfire Mark 9 flight stick. This again is a firm slide-on. Note that it's raised above the ground so there's room for my rudder pedals underneath the flight stick. Attach that and we're just about all done. I'm a little thinner on top than I thought I was. I suppose age catches up with all of us. So there's my VR cockpit with the components exactly matching where they are in the actual Spitfire itself. So that all looks great, we're just about ready to go, but the one question perhaps is how easy or difficult are these for self-assembly? Well, for first-timers the flight stick's quite a challenge, but the other components are relatively straightforward, primarily due to some fairly clever design. Coming up is me assembling the elevator trim wheel. It only took me about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll give it a go in VR. And note there are timestamps, so you can skip ahead if you want to. So here's my full kit, 8 pieces of plastic and a little bit of hardware. Let's get started. We have a bearing, and that'll allow for the movement of the trim wheel. The plastic plug goes inside the bearing, and then we fit the plastic cap on top. Everything seems to fit just right. And what we're doing is assembling the heart of the unit here. For the second part, I've got a cork washer. This will help just provide some tension when the unit is tightened up, and that is fitted to the inside of the faceplate. It's sticky on one side, so it just sticks straight on. Align the holes up. With that done, we're ready to put the unit together. And here I appreciate the design considerations. It's got a number of steps or lips in it, so it's next to impossible to assemble the wrong way. And now it's just a matter of 3 20mm screws just to fasten it all together. Having watched the instructional video, I know not to tighten too much at all. I still need quite a lot of movement and plenty of opportunity to adjust the tension later on in the assembly process. That's now fully assembled, and now time to put the encoder into the assembly. The center pin rotates, and it's a D shape to make sure it fits snugly. This is what measures the movement of the trim wheel. The encoder has 3 pins on the one side, so it's fairly straightforward and easy to see which way it is inserted into the assembly, as there are 3 grooves and we line those up. It's a fairly snug fit, and just rotate at the back just to make sure that the D slots line up, and this will allow you to push the unit all the way in. There it goes. In addition to the 3 pins, it's got 2 legs on either side. These can just be pushed flat. They're not required. And the 3 pins at the one end will just push them slightly forward, ready to connect the cables. Authentikit boasts that no soldering will be required in assembly, and we're about to put that to the test. Once assembled, make sure these center pivots still can rotate. We've got 3 cables, yellow, green and black. According to the instructions, we're going to start off with the yellow cable, and I've just taken a little bit of the insulation off the very end. And now comes the only really tricky or finicky part of this assembly. The kit comes with some very small ferrules or crimps. Not sure if you can see them clearly. This was a bit of a challenge for my eyes. Slot the ferrule over the wire, then slot the wire with the ferrule on over one of the legs. For the yellow wire, it's the leftmost pin. Then gently, not so to pull the wire, I push it into the slot. Then changing to a bigger screwdriver, I now press down and squash the crimp or the ferrule onto the wire, and the pin holding it fast. The ferrule crushes quite easily, and as you can see, it's holding that yellow cable nice and firmly. We repeat the process for the black and for the green cable, and here we have all 3 connected. Just make sure there's no loose strands causing a short. And now to put our assembly into the main unit of the trim. There's a small slot here, I don't know if you can see it, and we're going to feed the cables through, which I've now done. There's only one way to align it to get the cables to come through, and with the cables now threaded through, using 3 screws, I'm now going to fix it to the housing. And now we need to fit the cables to the network adapter, which is what will connect us to the central hub, and that'll fit into the slot as indicated. The kit provided by Authentikit is fairly generous in terms of the amount of cable. It's too much to fit in the housing comfortably, so I'm just going to cut some off. I don't need a lot, just enough to reach that opening. And once again, I'm going to bare the ends of the various cables and just twist it. Fortunately, this time fitting the cables is much easier. You align the cables along the channel, and by pushing down on that flap door, it fastens the cables securely in place. In this instance, we're starting with the black cable. I've aligned the cable in the channel and closed it, and it's connected. Much easier. We've now gone on and we've connected all 3 cables. So now, time to fit the network port into the housing. And that's a simple push and click. A nice satisfying click as it goes into place, and that's held fast. Push the cables out the way and time to fit the base on. And once again, this is simply held with a few screws. It's got a flat top, so once again it's easy to align. And again, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's got up indicated on it to help align the slot bracket, which we'll be doing shortly. The slot bracket is fairly simple and straightforward to assemble, and it's simply 4 screws that align. It indicates which way is up, which is very helpful, especially for somebody like me. And now we screw that on. There we are, that's done, nice and simple. We're almost complete. All that's left to do is actually fit the trim wheel itself, and the trim wheel and the center pin again are deslotted, so getting them fitted correctly and aligned is not a problem at all. Push the actual trim wheel on and just test it for tension. See whether or not you've got enough resistance in that wheel to suit you. That's a little bit loose for me, so I'm going to take it off and I'm just going to tighten up the screws once again. And you can do this repeatedly until you get it right. It took me a number of goes. I want a little bit of tension, but not too much. That feels good. Once that's done, a single screw will hold that in place. And then the final step is there's a small plastic cap that fits over the front of the face wheel to hide the screw. And we're done. To be honest, I found the assembly fairly straightforward, instructions were easy to follow, and I've now got myself a fairly chunky trim wheel. Welcome to the VR cockpit, and I'm just testing out the flight stick. The flight stick provides great resolution for fine movements. Now let me just check that rudder trim, reach down and touch it. Yes, that's working fine, don't want to move it too much. I have enough trouble taking off as it is. And now the elevator trim wheel. Actually feels like I'm touching the wheel in the sim. The amount of movement is corresponding exactly to the amount of physical movement on the wheel. Now check my throttle quad, advance the throttle, that's fine, and now test mixture. Mixture to full lean and the engine started cutting out, exactly as I expected it to. We'll test the prop lever once we're up in the air. Now let's just test the brake lever. That all looks good, so it's time to get up and away. After a dodgy takeoff, we'll just climb a little bit and then we'll test the controls more thoroughly. Time to get that gear up, which I mapped to one of the buttons on the flight stick, as there's no weapons in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This really is so immersive, it's unbelievable. We've now gained a bit of height, so we can now test things out a bit more. This is my rudder trim now, I'm moving it left and then right. And whilst you may not be able to experience it, I can feel a slight yaw left and right. Now for the elevator trim, nose down, and the nose is coming down. Just going to trim up a little bit and level off. That's a little bit better. Now to test the mixture. Now the prop lever, I'm going to bring that all the way back. Doesn't the spit make the most wonderful noises? This is a difficult bird to handle at the best of times, but the Authentikit equipment is certainly making it easier to handle. But the proof of the pudding lies in a landing, so let's give that a go. My gear is down and my flaps are now down. I'm flying in the Okavango in Africa, and there's a dirt strip ahead of us, and we're gonna make a landing there. Coming in a little bit too low, so I need to just put a little bit more throttle on. Need to clear these trees, and time to fasten your seatbelts. I should mention that configuring the controllers in the control options menu was simple and straightforward. It took me about 10 minutes. Well, at least we're down. Flying in VR with the Authentikit equipment is just amazing in this Spitfire. I'm going to let her run on a little bit. I'm going to turn around and take off again. But I'll be leaving you here. I'm now just gently applying some brakes just to slow me down as I get towards the end of the runway. And let me just finish off this video with a quick summary of the positives and negatives with regards to the Authentikit equipment. I think it would be fair to say that Authentikit delivers on its promise of a great VR experience. Although these controllers can be used with almost any aircraft, when used with the aircraft they're designed for, well, the immersion experience is complete. The second bonus, of course, is that the designs and plans and material lists are free. And I can say without doubt, they're well designed. A lot of thought has gone into this. Of course, there is a cost in equipping yourself out with Authentikit equipment in terms of the cost of components, the electrical items and so on. You can get a clearer indication of cost from the Authentikit website and also their partner SimKit Supplies, links in the notes below. And via SimKit Supplies they can source all the components for you if that's what you want, or find a 3D printer close to you. The negative for some will be that you've got to build it yourself, but there are tutorial videos on the Authentikit YouTube channel, and of course there's a time commitment to building these. These peripherals will not suit all aircraft, but then again, which ones do? The products are strong enough to withstand daily use. Having said that, I'd like to see the plastic clips that hold the peripherals to the horizontal bar being stronger. It's all too easy to over-tighten them and then they crack. I did notice a fair amount of chatter on the yoke during calibration. I have mentioned this to the developer and I'm aware that he's looking into it. Overall, I've got to say this is a great initiative. I'm personally not a big DIY person. And I think I've demonstrated you don't have to be a cockpit building wizard to get one of these assembled. The best recommendation I can give is that I'm going to continue to use the Authentikit equipment. 3D printing technology and availability has grown considerably over the last couple of years, and it's definitely worth a look. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you found this interesting and informative. Take care, look after yourselves, see you soon, and bye for now.